Marvel Studios' Moon Knight Episode 1 is officially out, and with that, the introduction of a brand new MCU hero of Moon Knight. So I decided that I wanted to do sort of like just quick 10-minute-ish reviews and give my thoughts on the episode and the series as it progresses. So starting off with episode 1, I just finished watching it literally like maybe 5 minutes ago, and I decided to hook up my audio equipment and just do this review. So going into this, a couple of things to note before we get into the actual episode. One, this was actually my most anticipated Disney Plus show, of everything. Like literally, Moon Knight was on top. I think Falcon and Winter Soldier was second, and Secret Invasion is third. So, but this was my most excited series that I wanted to see, and that I was really, really excited for a couple of reasons. One, I think the character of Moon Knight is very fascinating when it comes to dealing with dissociative identity disorder, and also dealing with Egyptian and Egyptian moon gods, and etc. And also because I think this is a character that doesn't really have a lot of shine when it comes to anything outside of comics. So to see him get his own series is definitely very, very interesting. Also, the fact that he's played by Oscar Isaac, which is really, really awesome. I'm a big fan of Oscar Isaac. I think that he does great in the roles that he is given. Obviously, there's some that he fails at and some that, he's really good at. For example, I thought that he was not really a good Apocalypse in the X-Men franchise, but I think that he did a great job when it came to like Poe Dameron in Star Wars, at least with what the story was telling. So for Moon Knight, I was very, very excited to see not only a fan favorite character in the comics come to the little screen, but to also see a good actor portraying the character of Moon Knight. One more thing I wanted to say was that this is also the MCU's first origin story on a TV series, meaning that every single series that we have gotten so far has dealt with characters that we have already known, right? WandaVision, that's obvious. Same thing with Falcon and Winter Soldier. Loki as well. What If was just the whole MCU. And Hawkeye dealt with Clint Barton, but also with the introduction of Kate Bishop. But this series is entirely new. It's a whole new set of cast, a whole new character that we're dealing with, and in some cases, even multiple characters. So the episode starts off with the introduction of Stephen Grant. And Stephen is a character in the Moon Knight series who is often portrayed as a Wall Street billionaire. But here he's a gift shop employee, right? He works at a British gift shop museum, and we sort of get the introduction to his life, in which he's essentially just trying to live his life normally, but he discovers that there are some holes in his story or in his timeline, in which like he's having trouble sleeping, or he struggles to interact with other human beings to a point where he is surprised when a woman is like, "Oh, are we still on a date for tonight?" And he's like, "What the hell does that mean?" So as you get more and more into the story, you start to realize that Steven he has missing parts in his story time, or in his life, and it's really, really cool to see how this is affecting him. Right, it's affecting him, mentally. It's affecting his sleep. It's affecting his interactions with people, because everybody sees him as crazy. And you slowly, as the episode starts to go through, you slowly start to sort of understand the world that we're living in. Obviously, as viewers, we know that he has multiple personalities, but to him, he sort of has to fill in that gap. He's trying to fill in, okay, what happened here, what happened there, what day am I in? That's something that's really, really interesting when it comes to what they're trying to build off of. To start off with Steven, who is pretty much the clueless person when it comes to the personalities, is really interesting, because it makes the audience, like us, have to fill in the gaps alongside with him. Like, what happened here? What happened there? And as the episode continues, you have more of these moments where it's like, okay, what just happened? Like you have to picture sort of what happened in your mind, but at the same time see sort of what Steven is also going through. So I thought that was really cool. Oscar Isaac as Steven Grant, I thought was really, really amazing. He has like a British accent with him, which is really, really cool. And we slowly start to see the world that Moon Knight is a part of. Well, I'm sorry, that Steven is a part of. He lives in London, and he has a job, and he's a typical guy. But as the episode continues, we start to find out more and more things. For example, there are voices talking to Moon Knight. And one of these voices just happens to be Khonshu, which is an Egyptian moon god, which I thought was really, really cool. We barely got a couple glimpses of him throughout the episode of Khonshu, but it was really, really cool to see, just who we're dealing with. And for those who don't know, Khonshu is essentially an Egyptian god who gives Mark Specs the powers to be Moon Knight. And speaking of Mark Specs, we get a brief couple of glimpses of him throughout the episode. We mainly hear him trying to talk with Steven, like trying to talk in his head. And it isn't really until the end of the episode where we actually see him. Even though it's still Oscar Isaac, we actually see him like talking with his whole body, trying to interact with Steven, trying to convince him to take control. Alongside that, we also get introductions to Ethan Hawke's character, which is Arthur Mallow, I think that is. And his character is very, very interesting. I actually don't really know a whole lot about Ethan Hawke. I haven't seen a lot of series that he's in, if anything. But the character that first of all, his character that he's portraying is nothing like the comics. In the comics, Arthur Mallow is essentially a one-off villain, just a guy who is creating experiments, or who was I think a World War II scientist who was creating experiments on people. And here it seems like he's more and more of a cult leader, which is what Ethan Hawke did say in an interview, that he was basing this performance off of I forgot which cult leader it was. But essentially, he is a cult leader. And I think he does a really, really good job at sort of like, like there's this moment where everybody's on there's a big group of people, and Ethan Hawke is over here judging them using a scale tattoo that actually moves. And it's really, really fascinating to see that, because like you get to see sort of like his powers, a glimpse of his powers and his abilities, but it's sort of like hidden for the most part. And then you see him starting to judge people. Like he judges this one man, and Arthur's like, hey, he's a good guy. Sorry, voice crack. Arthur's like, hey, he's a good guy. And then, he's free to go. He judges an old lady. Oh, something bad's gonna happen. And she ends up dying. So they're really starting to build up this villain of, okay, he has something in him, and it's a power that, if I'm guessing correctly, it might have to do with another Egyptian it might have to do with another Egyptian god, and I cannot wait to see that. I'm really, really fascinated with the story of the Egyptians and their sort of ideology and stuff like that. It's really, really cool. Now, moving towards the end of the episode, we find out that Arthur wants this little charm from Steven. And it's basically like this beetle, which is an artifact that Arthur wants. And it gets to a point where, hey, Arthur, at the end of the night, when Steven's about to go home, as he's leaving the museum, he ends up discovering, hey, there's the sound of a dog. And I really got excited because, well, I'm going to get to that in a little bit. But at the end of the episode, he's trying to find this dog in the museum, only to discover that it's actually not a dog, but it's in the form of a werewolf-shaped beast. Now, I'm not trying to confuse anybody with the actual Werewolf by Night, Jack Russell. I'm just saying that it looks like a werewolf. I mean, it has the sounds of a dog and just a body. Like, we don't get a full glimpse of it, but just what they showed us, it seems like it was like a dog of some kind, or a werewolf, right? And what is it? I think Arthur tells Steven, he's like, we gave you a choice. Now you gotta suffer the consequences. Steven ends up going, crazy. He ends up running all the way to like this bathroom, what it appears. And then, as you see the werewolf entering the room, Mark and Steven end up having this conversation. And it essentially leads up to what, Mark's like trying to convince Steven that, hey, you need to let me be in control. I can handle this werewolf type creature. You gotta let me be in control. Steven's over here denying it, trying to be like, what the hell's going on? This must be a nightmare of some sort. This has to. Mark's like, nobody. It's real. You gotta let me handle it, right? And then all of a sudden, we see the werewolf come in and tackle Steven on the ground. But it's at the same time that you slowly start to see the Moon Knight costume appearing. And it's really, really cool because normally Mark Specs would have to put on the costume itself. Here, it seems like the costume forms whenever the personality takes over. So that's really, really interesting. And I really do like that take on how they're handling the costume of Moon Knight. So finally, we get to the big shot. The camera slowly pans over into the room, into the bathroom, I think it was, and we see Moon Knight beating the ever-living shit out of this goddamn werewolf, right? It really reminded me of Moon Knight's first appearance, which was actually in a Werewolf by Night comics. So to see him just, going head on, battling this werewolf-like creature was really, really cool. And I think that it was really, really awesome. A great nod to Werewolf by Night. And at the end of the episode, we get a shot of him standing up, looking at the camera, and we get the full Moon Knight costume, which is the same thing that we saw in the trailer. So, as we wrap up this episode, what do I think about it? First of all, I really do love this episode. Is it the best MCU content? No. Or I should be more specific. Is it the best Disney Plus episode to date? No, it's not. There are a couple things that I feel like could irritate the fandoms, more specifically the gaps within the story, right? I don't know. Me personally, I didn't have a problem with the episode, but I just think that some fans are going to have a hard time dealing with the fact that, we don't get the full story. We don't get to see Mark Specs, kicking ass, or we don't get to see the Moon Knight costume in action. Like, we only barely got a tease of it, right? And I think that's what this episode is mainly about. It's just teasing what's coming up ahead, right? We get a tease of Mark Spector, of Khonshu, of the Moon Knight, of Arthur Hollow, right? It's a building up episode, which I think is really, really important when it comes to introducing a brand new character. But it could also affect the first couple of episodes because you're dealing with build up instead of, heading into a straight new story. It's not like Falcon and Winter Soldier where you can just go straight into the action and the villains. No, you have to literally build up this world that we're dealing with, especially with a new type of setting that we're dealing with being Egyptian and the Egyptian gods. Overall, I really did enjoy this episode. I thought it was great. I love Oscar Isaac as mainly Mark Spector. I think Stephen Grant was okay too. But I'm really interested to see how this episode and how this series holds up in the future. I hope it gets nothing but better. But with that said and done, guys, that was my Moon Knight episode 1 review. If you guys did enjoy it, make sure to smash that like button. Really helps out a lot. And if you are new to the channel, be sure to subscribe. My name is Anthony Salick, and be sure to follow me on social media at Anthony22 Salick. That's ANTHONY22 SALIC. Anywhere on social media, and be sure to be on the lookout for more episodes coming out, not just on Moon Knight, but on other types of content. And I will see you all next time. See ya.